Hello, my friends, and welcome to the 52 Coffees podcast. I am Cindee Williams, your host, and I cannot tell you how glad I am that you are here today. Every week, I interview extraordinary women who are living exceptional lives and advancing daily, achieving their dreams. And this podcast is actually sponsored by Lead My Life, which is this dynamic community coaching platform for women who are ready to just unlock the life of their dreams. Does that sound like something you'd like? It's certainly something that I need in my life. And so go check it out at leadmylife.com. But today, I want to introduce to you our guest. And you want to know what? It's you. It's you. Yes. I want to sit today and have a discussion with you one on one, discussing my 5 biggest blunders and entering into empty nesthood because it's a serious time and it's May, it's Mental Health Month. Some of you may be entering this phase right now. You have kids graduating from high school or going off to college, or maybe they're graduating from college, but it's kind of this big tumultuous transition season in your life. So let's talk. I want to share what my biggest mistakes are so that hopefully you can avoid them. I want to make them for you and kind of shorten the learning curve if I can. So let's dive in. I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey and then again what my 5 biggest blunders were and what if I had to go back, what I would have changed. And then maybe you can learn from them and apply it to your life where you are right now. So back in 2018, I was turning 50 years old. So I was entering into midlife, and our kids were both leaving the nest at the same time, going off to college, going off to their different adventures. And I had dropped our daughter Megan off at Texas Christian University, flew back home, and thought everything was just going to be wonderful. I was actually excited to enter into empty nesthood. I had no idea of the emotions that I would feel. I thought I was good. I had a healthy, happy marriage. And then I came home and it kind of struck me. So let's unpack that a little bit. I know growing up, I always thought of like midlife crisis as this man, like a big man with a big hairy chest and a gold chain driving a red Ferrari. That was my picture in my mind. And I know when I was little, like 4 or 5, my mom would always have the neighborhood moms over in the morning for coffee because that's what they did back then. And they drink their coffee and have coffee cake, and the kids would play around their feet. And I would always hear the ladies whispering about so and so took off with the secretary and he's having a midlife crisis. And I was like, whatever that is, I don't want any part of it when I get old. And I thought I didn't know what this midlife crisis thing was. And I certainly wanted to avoid it. And I thought it was only for men, right? Because I always heard it phrased for men. And then when I turned 50 and I came home, there was this gnawing ache inside of me like, wow, I just traveled a whole lot of road, 50 years of road. And you start thinking about the road that you have ahead is shorter than the road you have behind. And it's this weird feeling. And it caught up with me as soon as the kids left the house. And I started wondering really like, what am I going to do? What impact am I making in the world? What is my next? It was just this crazy season. I was having a midlife crisis. A woman, me, I hadn't expected it. Think about yourself. Where are you right now? Do you have kids leaving? Maybe you have one gone and one still in the nest, or maybe you have some circling. That's a thing. When they graduate from college or high school, they leave and they kind of circle, land again, and so it's this kind of whole transition phase. Number one, my biggest blunder was, I got this. I can go it alone. What's the big fuss about? I get to come home. It's gonna be my husband and I. It's just a house to ourselves. Yay. That was one of my biggest blunders. thinking I could go it alone. And what I didn't expect was as soon as the kids were gone, that we had built up a network of friends, and I'm going to use that friends lightly, that were really the parents of our kids' friends, right? And as soon as that tassel shifted on the graduation camp or cap, everything started to dissipate. It's like, where did they go? Where are these friends? And we all have different interests. And there was divorces, there was friends who were losing, lost their husbands at an early age. There's all kinds of transition and change going on. And I really found myself totally without a support network. And maybe that's not you, but I talk to a lot of women, right? 52 coffees. I talk to at least one woman I don't know every single week. And this is a big thing. Women our age entering into midlife, not having a support system build up. And I'm going to preface it with this too. I don't believe that that's an empty nest issue necessarily. Because I talked to my daughter, we did a podcast a week ago, and she's graduated from college, and she's in this transition season. You're all friends around people all the time, all the time, all the time. And then you graduate and you're in this new season, and all of a sudden you have to build up a support network yourself. So I think this transcends many different demographics, many different age groupings. But today we're talking about midlife, we're talking about the empty nest. So what did I do? I had no support system in place. And so I had to start from the bottom, really basics, like being that 4-year-old on the beach going, hey, you want to play with me? You want to build some sandcastles? And that's what it was like. So that's where 52 coffees came from. I had to give myself a challenge. I really am naturally an introvert. Seriously. I kind of prefer to be by myself sometimes, but I think that's sometimes more laziness and an excuse not to have to be really vested into other people. It's kind of my upbringing. We lived in 18 different homes in 18 years. I moved an awful lot. And so I never really formed deep attachments in friendships. And so coming into the emptiness, I never really had strong, deep women friendships. And so if I could offer you any encouragement at all, it's build your support system. Go outside your comfort zone, open the front door of your house, put your foot over the threshold, and go out and make some friends. I had a good following on Facebook, and most of them, I'm very careful of how I build up my Facebook page, and most of them were women my age who live within our local area. So I just started sending out messages and just said, hey, you want to get together for coffee? I'd love to learn how I can support you. And I started that way. And pretty soon I was meeting people. And my daughter calls them freights, friend dates. And I was saying, who could I connect with? Who could I be friends with? Who matches my interests? Or they didn't have to match my interests, but they just had to be kind and supportive and somebody who could be a good friend. And my whole life began to change because of 52 coffees. I found that I really enjoyed being around other people, that people could be my friend. I learned how to form deeper connections with women and how to support each other. And kind of my litmus test, and I'll just throw this out here to you to do this to yourself. Ask yourself this question. If I woke up in the middle of the night and I had a bladder infection, right? And I had to go to the hospital, who would I call? Do you have somebody that you feel comfortable calling at 2 a.m. and say, please take me to the emergency room? Something's not right. That was my litmus test because that happened to me. Actually, it was stomach pain, it's not bladder infection, but I felt like I didn't have anybody. And if that's the case, or if your husband's out of town and you want to go to a movie or you want to go out to dinner with a friend, with a woman friend, Do you have somebody that you could call? I didn't. That shows me that my support network was really out of whack. And that's a first glaring blunder that I had moving into the empty nest, because I can tell you the years ahead, moving into midlife and into our 60s and 70s and 80s, they're going to be rough. They're going to get dicey. There's going to be a lot of loss. There is, and a lot of change. We're in the sandwich generation. I heard that term, and I think it's perfect. You know, we're taking care of our parents who are getting elderly. We're also have our kids who are circling the nest, or they're transitioning. So we're smack right in the middle. We're taking care of a lot of people still. We need support. What are you going to do, my friend, to build support? Really consider that. All right. So if you're not there, that was my number one thing. And I'm so proud to say that, what is it, 6 years later, I have really done the work on that. And I have a beautiful network of support. In fact, my husband was just gone for 2 weeks. And I had people to call to dinner and say, hey, let's go out to dinner. Let's go to a movie. And I had people, women that I could call and do that with. And it feels so good not to be lonely and to have friends that support me, that I can support them and they support me. And it just makes your life so much more joyous. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, this is our second biggest blunder: avoiding the emotions of the empty nest. Yep. We have to face the emotions of it. There are going to be some emotions. It's a major transition to go from a full busy house and kids running in and out, and you go into ballet and to water polo and to football practice and to all the different things that we go to as moms, to quiet, very quiet. It's hard. It's very hard. So what we did, dropped Megan off at school, flew the plane back home, drove up to the home. 5 days later, Todd and I gutted our house. We took 5 days and we completely demoed the inside of our house. We did a complete remodel. No kitchen, tore out the bathrooms. We had, I don't know, 20 years of raising the kids and just craziness. And we wanted to start fresh. I mean, we're talking butter yellow walls, and we had navy blue couches. It was like a primary color plate had thrown up in our house, and I was so over it, and I was ready to remodel. So instead of addressing what does this feel like and embracing the emotions, embracing the sadness, embracing all the different feelings that we had around the empty nest, we vested ourselves into a project that took a year and a half. And by the time that we were finished with that, we were sitting down one evening for dinner, and it hit us. It's quiet. It's really quiet. What do we do? What do we do? And I think if we had started to work through it sooner, or if we had prepared in our minds even before the kids left, this is going to happen. Let's have some activities. Let's have some hobbies. Let's have a plan in place for what happens. But that quiet was really hard, in the loneliness of it set in deep in a way that I wasn't expecting it. So this is my recommendation for you. First, just know that that's going to happen. There's going to be emotions around it. Don't avoid them. Feel them. Feel them. It's okay. If you're afraid, feel the fear. If you're sad, feel the sad. Emotions are not bad, right? I think they're gifts from God. Embrace them, process through them, and then move forward. Don't live in them and stay held back. Experience them, be thankful for them, and then move forward. Develop an evening routine, my friends. I often counsel my clients on having a morning routine. That's such a must. It's such a mess. No matter what stage you are in life, you have to have a morning routine. You do. You have to have something that grounds you for the day, waking up at a certain time. What are you going to read? Are you going to write? Doing your stretching, doing a workout. What are you going to eat? How are you going to prepare? All those things are great for a morning routine. But we seldom think about the evenings. And I think the evenings are when some of the bad habits can start to form. Some of the ones that don't serve us well, such as let's sit down to eat with hubby or your significant other, and let's just watch TV and just sit on the couch and watch TV and watch an episode on Netflix, and then why not another one, and then why not another one, and all of a sudden 3 episodes in 3 hours have gone by, and you've just wasted a beautiful evening. Or how about you're at home, it's in the evening, you're feeling sad, you miss the kids, it's awful quiet. What are you doing with your life? And you're going through all these emotions that you hadn't processed yet. And you're like, I'm sitting here making dinner. I think I'll have a glass of wine. Yeah. And a glass of wine's not bad. I like to have a glass of wine. And maybe it's just a glass of wine on Monday night. But then Tuesday night, that was kind of fun. I'm going to have a glass of wine tonight. And then on Wednesday night, I'm going to have a glass of wine. And all of a sudden, having a glass of wine becomes a nightly occurrence. And is that okay? I mean, you have to make the decision, the deliberate decision, but don't do it because you're masking or numbing sadness. That's just a sign that you need to process through that emotion. Maybe you need some counsel. Maybe you need some support from people who have gone through it. But don't mask it with alcohol, because there is a whole Pandora's box of things that will open up because of that. And I made that mistake. So this is what we did. So our major blunder was we kind of masked the emotions by just diving headlong into a project and didn't really start processing it for a year and a half. We started establishing an evening routine, and we started changing our lifestyle, our dietary lifestyle, all of it. So we started just cooking together in the evenings. We would chop up the veggies and grill the meat and do all that, and that started to be kind of fun, right? We enjoyed it. We would close down shop, close down the computers, close down the phones like at 6, and then start preparing dinner. So that was a really fun part of the evening routine that we developed. And then on Friday nights, we made it, let's walk down to our downtown area and have dinner on Friday nights. And so that was just a fun part of our evening routine. And then we also added on, hey, after dinner, let's go for a walk around the block, a block or two. And just kind of process through the day together, kind of wind down, come home, let's read a little bit and go to bed. And it was such a healthy way, so much better than sitting on the couch, binge watching Netflix, or having a glass of wine to numb the feelings. Highly recommend. All right. So you are going to not avoid the emotions of the emptiness and know that they're going to happen, and start processing through them and not be afraid of them. All right. Okay. Number 3 on my emptiness blunders is don't wear their clothes. let me explain this a little bit. The kids leave. We've raised them, we've poured our mom hearts into them, everything that we have, we've poured into those kids. And so much of us is tied up into them. And then they leave. And your kids are all going to do different things. All right. Some may be the type that just call you every day, several times a day, and others, they may go 2 weeks, a month without calling you. Are you ready to release that? The other side of that is they're going to call you with the drama, with the things that are going on, and they're all the way across the country in college or wherever they are. And all of a sudden we start wearing the emotion of what they're going through. I call it wearing their clothes. Mom, oh my gosh, this happened at school and I don't know what to do. And she said this and all that. And we start fretting and we start worrying about it. And all of a sudden, that is impacting our day and our ability to perform and produce in our work, our ability to have joy in experiencing a great day, all of it. We don't need to wear their clothes. They don't fit us anymore. They don't fit us. They're not for us. We have our own clothes to wear. We can help, we can advise, we can coach them when they ask for it. But they're ready. They're ready. They're out of the nest. They are ready to find their own clothes that fit. So I want you to go like this with me. I'm clenching my fist. If you're just listening to this and not watching, clench your fists in front of you, both of them together. You're holding on to your kids tight here, right? All their emotions, everything they say, all their activities, their grades, all of it. They're out of the nest. They're adults. They're on their own. You've raised them. You've given them everything that they need to go live their life. And even if you hadn't, it's on them now. So take your clenched fist and open your hands, palms wide open. Release. Release them. Release your kids to God every single day. Take your clenched fist, open them up, and just release them and say, Lord, they're yours. They're yours. I did what I knew how at the time for the last 18 years, 20 years, and they're yours. I release them to yours. They really were never mine to begin with. But I praise you and I thank you for allowing me to be a part of their lives and to give them everything that I have, but I release them to you. Don't wear their clothes. Don't wear their clothes. Okay? Your kids were created to fly. Let them fly. And they may hop out of the nest and they may crash and burn to the ground. I understand that as well. And it's hard. It's really hard to watch. It's really hard to watch. And we can be there to support, but eventually they're going to gather the strengths together. If it's within them, we can't make that happen, and they're going to take off and fly on their own, but they'll never do that if you keep holding them in the clenched fist. You have to release. Don't wear their clothes. Okay. Number 4, and this one is so sneaky. I didn't expect this at all. I didn't even know it was a thing. Nobody ever talked about it, but there is a thing. I'm just going to call it sneaky mom guilt. Once they're out of the nest and they go and they're off to college, all these voices start talking in your head and saying, did you do enough? Did you teach them about this back in the first grade? Did you do this, that, and the other thing? You could have done it better. Seriously, it just, these voices, they just take you away far back. Don't allow that to happen. Moms, you did the very best you could with what you had at that moment. And even if you were to go back right now and do it all over again, you probably wouldn't do it any different because that was the circumstances back then. Release it. There is no mom guilt. Take today, take where you are right now and do better. If you know that, gosh, I worked too hard, I didn't spend enough time with them, they were in daycare, that, I got divorced and it was ugly and that shouldn't have happened, and take the mom guilt and release it. Give it to God. Just give it to God and go, God, these are your kids. These are your children. You take them. I did the very best that I could, and I'm releasing them to you. Let go of the mom guilt. It will just zap the lifeblood out of you, and you've got a beautiful life ahead of you to live. No mom guilt. That was a really big blunder of mine. I kept going, oh, I shouldn't have spent more time. I was a stay-at-home mom. I poured everything into them and I still had mom guilt. Why? Don't go down that road, my friend. Okay, that's sneaky mom guilt. Did I do enough? Yes, you did. You did. Number 5, I was not prepared for the new health changes that I was going to experience. So this is personal. This is, 50 plus, and you have these new changes to your body, premenopausal or menopausal. It's kind of an interesting time because you're letting go of the kids, so you're feeling lonely and sad about that, and then your body's completely changing, right? And it's not reacting to exercise the same way, and you just look at sugar and you've gained 50 pounds and it's just totally different. So I wasn't prepared for that. So we had to totally revamp our diet, our lifestyle, our exercise plan, everything, because we started to see the weight and shifts and things creep on. So one of the great things is, you know what? The pantry now belongs to you. Isn't that fantastic? When you go grocery shopping, there's no more mystery packages that will land in your grocery cart. Everything that's in there is something that you chose to put in. Everything that's in your cupboard is something that you chose to put there. Everything in your refrigerator is something you chose to put there, right? Choose wisely. It is your time to revamp. You can totally revamp your health right now. No excuses. It's in your court. I find that amazingly freeing. You can, and you can choose to say to yourself, it's too late. I'm 56. I could easily say, it's too late. What's done is done. I'm just going to live the rest of my life eating Twinkies and ho-hos. No, no, my friend. Start today. Just start today. Don't wait until the 1st or to the 15th. I always do that. I'm going to start on May 1st, and the next 10 days I can eat whatever I want. No, start today. Start today. Make the choices, get educated, hire a coach, do what you need to do to get healthy. Now, do you want to be around for grandbabies? That's my goal. They're not even a thought or a twinkle in the eye yet. I want to be around for grandbabies. I want my grandbabies to say, hey, I want to go climb a mountain and I want to be able to do that with them. I can't do that if I'm not taking care of myself now. You have to make the hard choices today so that on the other side of it, you have freedom and opportunity and abundance. But it takes hard work now. And with your health and your lifestyle, yeah, I know it's hard, especially if the last 50 years of your life you've neglected it. I get that. There's been areas of my life that I've neglected, and at come 50, I really had to jump in and take hold of it. But you can see this as your opportunity to have a fresh start, clean slate with your health, and take charge of it today. There's going to be a mindset shift with that. All right. Change your mind. It's, start thinking about being intentional, being aware, reflecting on what you eat and what you do in your fitness every day. Take charge. All right. Last one. And I really didn't see this one coming. This is number 6. You have to prepare financially. It's in not in the way that you think, but when the kids leave, your budget changes. Think about it. Your grocery bill changes, the electric bill changes, the amount of gas you're paying. I mean, everything. There's a total shift in the finances. So how are you going to do that? Now at the same time, like our medical insurance went way up, and there's other expenses that kind of came on board. So it's a whole transition season. It's like when I was in college, I took a geology class. I think it was geology, and it's like the only thing that I remember from science classes when I was in college. But we studied the change of seasons in the ocean. And when the ocean has a change of season, like going from spring into summer, all of a sudden the waves change and there's a whole different pole, magnetic pole from the moon and all of that, and it churns up the bottom, and you've got this, everything's like mixing crazy, and then it balances out once the transition season is over. That's what happens here. We're in a transition season. Things are getting mixed up. The bottom is being dredged up and pulled to the front, and we've got to work through it. We've got to rebudget. We've got to maybe get in touch with a financial advisor, a wealth planner. Or, how are we going to leave a legacy? Do we need to pay off debt? Where are we in our financial cycle? What does that look like? And that was just like a whole awakening for me. And actually, it was really good because I've always lived being afraid of finances. And I think there's so much information out there now for the 50 plus woman, for any women to say, wait a second, I'm smart. I can learn this. I can invest in the stock market. I can purchase a rental property. I can there's all this stuff that you can learn right now. It's right in front of you. So there's no reason to think it's too late for me. It's just too late for me. I know in my real estate career, I run into families, to couples like that all the time. They're sitting there in their 50s, and the only savings they have is the equity in their home, and they just think it's over. I'm like, no, it's not over. You're 55. Yeah, you probably should have gotten a start way back when, but you didn't. So let's start today. Start today. What can you learn? How can you invest? What can you do to increase your savings, to increase your investments, to increase your cash flow, really, at this day and age? Get educated. Education just trumps everything. When we're afraid, that just means we don't know enough, that there's a void in our learning. So we just push through it. Don't be afraid. Embrace it. It's your friend. And then figure it out and move through it. All right, so those are my 6 biggest takeaways, really, from our first year and a half, 2 years of Empty Nesthood. I'm proud to say that we are over 6 years into Empty Nesthood. And like I told you about the tumultuous season, in the ocean and the tides and all that, we have found our joy. We have found our place. We have found our purpose. I want to tell you that if you're married, wives, it can be such a season of beautiful awakening. I feel closer and stronger with my husband than ever before, but it's because we've been very intentional about our relationship. We've been very intentional about dreaming again. We had I don't know if we ever dreamed. I had dreams when I was 20, and I was teaching school in my mid-20s, and I had tons of dreams. But then we started having kids, started having the family. It's like I just put them into a box, tied the bow, and put it on a back shelf. Doesn't have to be that way. So I feel like Todd and I, we took that box and we've pulled it back up and we've opened it up and we've started to dream together again. And I love that. And I want that for you too. It's like, here we are. Where do we want to go? How do we get there? And if you're able to mark that and say it out loud and tell people and write it down and come up with a plan, you will get there. I promise you, my friend, you will get there faster than you ever dreamed possible. Put God in the center of it. Put God in the center of your marriage. Dream together. Go through these things. Don't go it alone. Have your support system. Process the emotions of it. Don't wear their clothes. Let them fly. Release them to fly. Don't let the sneaky mom guilt creep in. Be aware of your new health. Embrace your lifestyle. And then decide where you are financially and start making different type of plan. All right. And then release yourselves to dream for your future, because it's beautiful. It can be absolutely beautiful. It's never a midlife crisis. It's a midlife awakening. And it's absolutely worth grasping hold of 110%. Okay, thank you so much for being my guest today, for us being able to sit one-on-one and go through this topic. It does not need to be a sad time in your life, but we do have to work through it. All right. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you subscribe to 52 Coffees Podcast, wherever it is you're podcasting, whether it's YouTube or Apple, Spotify, or on all the channels. And then tune in on Mondays for new podcast episodes. Next week, we will be talking about clutter and our mental health. Super interesting topic. I have Carrie Von Steed coming on with Home Savvy Organizing, and I'm super excited about that episode. So we will see you then. Take care, my friends, and have a beautiful week. Bye.